Life is already a battle for many, but for transgender individuals, it's a fight on a whole other level. Imagine navigating your identity while facing judgmental stares, ignorance, and the crushing weight of isolation. For many, transitioning isn't just a physical journey, it's an emotional war against a world that too often refuses to understand. And yet, some transgender celebrities have risen through that darkness with a strength most of us can't begin to imagine. They didn't just survive, they thrived. They stood tall in the face of ridicule, defied expectations, and claimed their truth with grace and grit. These aren't just stars. They're warriors of authenticity. Their stories don't just belong in headlines. They belong in hearts. So stay with us until the very end, because once you hear what they've been through and what they've overcome, you'll understand why they deserve every ounce of respect, love, and standing ovation they get. Andrea Pejic. Before the world knew her as a trailblazing supermodel, she walked the runway under a different name, Andre Pejic, a male model who turned heads by fearlessly wearing women's fashion with unmatched grace. Her androgynous beauty made her an overnight sensation, a muse to designers and fashion houses across the globe. But behind the glamour and flashbulbs was a deeper truth. No matter how stunning she looked on the outside, Andrea was living a life that didn't reflect who she truly was. Born in Bosnia and raised in Australia, Andrea always felt like she didn't quite belong. As a child, she found moments of joy in her mother's clothes and dabbled in makeup, quietly exploring an identity that felt more real than anything the world around her expected. The modeling world praised her uniqueness. Her fluid look defied labels and fascinated fashion elites. Yet, even as she graced magazine covers and strutted on the world's most prestigious catwalks, a part of her remained hidden. The applause was loud, but the silence within her was louder. In 2014, after years of inner struggle and soul-searching, she made the courageous decision to transition and embrace her true identity as a woman. It was a deeply personal leap and a professional risk. Would the industry that once celebrated her still open its arms? The answer was powerful, yes. Not only was she embraced, but she made history, becoming the first transgender model to appear on the cover of GQ Portugal. Her story became one of triumph, resilience, and the power of living your truth. If she could whisper to her younger self today, she might say, "Hold on. One day, you'll become the woman you were always meant to be. And the world? It will see you and love you." Caitlyn Jenner's journey from Bruce to Caitlyn is one of the most iconic and deeply human transformations of our time. As Bruce, she stood on the world's biggest stage, a gold medalist in the decathlon at the 1976 Montreal Olympics, the very symbol of strength, discipline, and American pride. But behind the athletic glory was a lifelong struggle few could see. Even as a child, Bruce would quietly try on his mother's and sister's clothes, driven by a silent yearning and confusion that words couldn't explain. To the world, Bruce seemed invincible, confident, driven, successful. But inside, there was a storm, a disconnect that fame and medals couldn't quiet. Sports became a coping mechanism, a way to channel the inner turmoil into triumph. Yet, no finish line could ever erase the feeling of living a life that wasn't fully his own. In private, Bruce wrestled with the truth. His second wife, Linda Thompson, tried to understand, but their conversations often ended in pain and silence. Later, in his marriage to Kris Jenner, Bruce revealed he was using hormones. Still, misunderstandings and blurred boundaries led to public questions about what was known and when. Despite it all, Bruce played the role of the steady, loving father on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, holding together one of the most visible families on television. Then, at 65, an age when most fade into retirement, Bruce chose to fully embrace the truth and become Caitlyn. The world was stunned. So was her family. But over time, they stood by her side, showing that love, when it's real, can survive even the most profound change. Her 2015 Vanity Fair cover, boldly headlined "Call Me Caitlyn," wasn't just a personal milestone, it was a cultural awakening. In one photo, one sentence, transgender visibility took center stage. Caitlyn Jenner's story remains a beacon for anyone trapped behind fear, shame, or misunderstanding. Her courage reminds us all, the most powerful transformation isn't physical, it's living as your true self, without apology. Cary Grant, born Archibald Alexander Leach, was more than just the polished icon of old Hollywood charm. Behind the tailored suits and silver screen smiles was a man who shared an intimate, deeply rooted connection with fellow actor Randolph Scott. Their bond began in 1932 on the set of Hot Saturday, and it blossomed into something far more profound than friendship. Soon, they moved in together, creating a lavish home famously known as Bachelor Hall, a residence so remarkable it was featured in Architectural Digest. But what they built inside those walls wasn't just a shared living space. It was a quiet rebellion, a deep and lasting companionship that defied the rigid social codes of their era. Whispers of their relationship followed them for years, even as each man entered into marriages. Hollywood kept them in the shadows, but those close to them saw the truth in subtle moments, like the two men holding hands in the quiet corners of the Polo Lounge, witnessed only by discreet waitstaff. Their affection was never loud, never announced, but it was real. Though the public was never allowed to see the full picture, Grant and Scott's connection endured for decades. When Cary passed away, Randolph followed just months later, an unspoken final chapter in a lifelong devotion. Their story is more than Hollywood gossip. It's a quiet, powerful testament to a love that refused to be erased. A reminder that the deepest bonds aren't always loud, but they leave echoes that never fade. Chanel West Coast unexpectedly found herself at the center of one of the internet's strangest and funniest conspiracy theories. According to a wildly viral rumor, some people genuinely believed that Lee Norris, the brainy, bespectacled Kid Stuart Minkus from Boy Meets World, had transitioned and become Chanel West Coast. Yep, that quirky blonde with oversized glasses and lovable nerd energy? Supposedly, that was Chanel before her rise to fame. Thanks to a few uncanny similarities in their facial features, the rumor took on a life of its own, prompting countless confused searches and a chorus of, "Wait, is that actually true?" Of course, it's completely false. Just another bizarre case of the internet drawing lines between dots that were never connected. Chanel West Coast and Lee Norris are two entirely different people with separate lives and careers. Norris, for his part, went on to star in Girl Meets World, Gone Girl, and even The Walking Dead. But ironically, his steady work in Hollywood was momentarily overshadowed by a hoax that had some believing he'd vanished from the spotlight and re-emerged as a rap artist. As for Chanel, she handled the whole thing with poise and humor. While she laughed along with the absurdity, she also took a moment to remind fans to be mindful when joking about gender identity and transition. Her response wasn't just classy, it was powerful. In a world where misinformation spreads faster than facts, Chanel used the moment to promote compassion and clarity. Rather than letting the rumor define her, Chanel continues to thrive, proving she's more than a viral mix-up. She's a real artist, a personality, and a presence in her own right. And as internet myths come and go, this one will be remembered not for who it confused, but for how gracefully she rose above it. Chaz Bono. When Sonny and Cher welcomed their daughter Chastity into the world in 1969, they couldn't have imagined the powerful journey that lay ahead. Born into fame as the child of two music and television icons, Chastity grew up in the relentless glow of the spotlight. But even under all that glitter, something inside didn't feel right. From an early age, Chastity sensed a disconnect, like living someone else's story. Dresses, public smiles, and red carpet appearances felt like an ill-fitting costume. She was trying to be the girl the world expected, but deep down, she knew she wasn't. For years, Chastity wrestled silently with an identity that didn't match her reflection. The weight of public image, family legacy, and inner truth became a storm she had to weather alone. And yet, in the late 2000s, she made a decision that would change everything, not just for herself, but for millions watching. She embraced her true self and stepped forward as Chaz Bono. It wasn't just a name change, it was a rebirth. At 40, Chaz underwent gender-affirming surgery and began hormone therapy, finally feeling whole in a body that reflected his soul. But the journey didn't stop at personal transformation. Chaz shattered barriers, becoming the first transgender man to star in a major film role, and later appearing in shows like The Secret Life of the American Teenager and American Horror Story. His bravery forced Hollywood and the world to rethink representation, identity, and what it means to live authentically. Even Cher, once unsure and struggling to understand, came to embrace her son fully. She's admitted she still stumbles with pronouns, but never with love. Because when your child walks through fire to be free, that's not just brave, that's revolutionary. Fallon Fox's journey is not just about fighting in the ring, it's about fighting for the right to exist. Born in Toledo, Ohio, Fallon always felt out of place in a world that demanded she be someone she wasn't. As a child, she gravitated toward the company of girls, instinctively drawn to a truth she didn't yet have the words to explain. But in a society that polices gender roles with cruelty, living as her authentic self came at a heartbreaking cost. When she came out as transgender, her world shattered. Her mother turned her back on her. Her father forced her into conversion therapy, hoping to fix what wasn't broken. But Fallon didn't break. She rose. Against rejection, against pain, against a sports world unprepared for her truth, Fallon stepped into the cage as the first openly transgender MMA fighter in history. She faced opponents in the octagon and prejudice outside of it. Once just another rising star in women's MMA, she was suddenly attacked, questioned, and vilified. Critics claimed her past gave her an unfair advantage. But Fallon didn't flinch. Her strength wasn't just physical, it was the courage to stand tall in the face of ignorance. Fallon didn't transition for applause. She did it to survive. She did it because she knew who she was, even when the world told her she couldn't be. Today, she's more than a fighter. She's a symbol of resilience, a voice for transgender athletes, and a living challenge to outdated norms in sports. Fallon Fox proved that being true to yourself is the fiercest fight of all, and she's still swinging. Gina Rosero's world shifted forever in 2014, when she stepped onto the TED stage and revealed a truth she had carried silently for years: she was transgender. Until that moment, Gina had built a thriving modeling career, gracing runways and magazine covers, with few ever knowing she had been assigned male at birth. But her TED Talk wasn't just a public coming out. It was a bold act of liberation, one that echoed far beyond the fashion industry. It wasn't the start of her journey, but a powerful continuation of a path she had walked since the age of 5, when she first told her mother, "I'm a girl." Unlike many, Gina was met with love and support. That early acceptance became her foundation, giving her the courage to live with authenticity, even if, for years, that truth remained hidden from the public eye. At 19, she underwent gender confirmation surgery, aligning her physical self with who she had always been inside. Yet, within the high-gloss world of modeling, she kept her past private, afraid that revealing it might cast doubt on her identity or cost her everything. But with time, the need to live openly became louder than fear. When she finally shared her story on that stage, it sent shockwaves, not just through the audience, but through a world hungry for real representation. Her agents, unaware of her journey until then, responded with grace and unwavering support, standing by her not because of her story, but because of her undeniable talent and beauty. From that moment forward, Gina didn't just model clothes, she modeled courage. She became a fierce advocate for transgender visibility, inclusion, and equality, using her platform to speak for those who hadn't yet found their voice. Today, she is a symbol of resilience, reminding the world that living your truth is not just brave, it's revolutionary. Thanks for watching Exposed Hollywood. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss the untold stories behind the spotlight. Stay tuned, we'll see you in the next video.